こんにちは、藤井則次です。今回のテーマは、経営学博士論文発表、こんな感じでした、です。博士論文の執筆が終わると、研究成果の対外発表があります。それは、審査員による公聴会、最終諮問、ディフェンス、でもあります。論文そのものは、プレゼンテーションに不向きですから、プレゼンテーション用に、パワーポイントなどで発表シートを作成します。執筆した論文の内容に従って、研究の新規性や成果をプレゼンテーションします。そして、その発表に対する質問や指摘、反論に対して応酬します。これは、自分の唱える説を守るという概念から、ディサテイションディフェンスと呼ばれます。私の場合は、ネットを介してリアルタイムにプレゼンテーションしました。時差があるので、深夜1時、カリフォルニアでは午前8時に開始することになりました。学長のマーク・パクバズ博士と、担当スーパーバイザー、ドミニカ・フォルセイ博士、その他に、数名の方々に参加いただいていました。発表の後は、学長からの質問が鋭く、日本の若者とアメリカの若者の比較において、日本人のサムライスピリットに対するアメリカの若者の特性についてなど、予想していなかった問いがありました。私は、アメリカの若者に引き継がれているフロンティア精神についての見解で回答しました。1時間半ほどのプレゼンテーションと質疑応答になりました。プレゼンテーションと質疑応答が終わると、諮問委員会による審査が行われます。学問的、発展的議論が行われ、合否判定がなされます。それには、修正指示や今後の研究の方向性について確認と報告がされます。これで合否が決まるわけです。ドキドキしながら待っていると、深夜2時半、カリフォルニア午前9時半、次のコメントがドミニカ・フォルセイ博士から届きました。
Congratulations. I would like to congratulate you on...
おめでとうございます。この度は、博士論文審査委員会でのプレゼンテーションを無事に終えられましたこと、心よりお祝い申し上げます。慎重な審議の結果、委員会はあなたの博士論文を承認いたしました。これまでのプロセスに注がれた多大な時間と献身的な努力に対し、深く感謝いたします。これで DBA、経営学博士号取得に必要なすべての要件が完了しました。委員会としては、あなたが今後も博士論文のテーマに関する研究を継続されることを強く推奨いたします。また、論文を出版し、同僚や専門仲間、ご家族、そして学生の皆様と共有されることをお勧めします。あなたの論文のテーマは非常に興味深く、あなたの国に有意義な変化をもたらす可能性を秘めています。研究成果を広く共有し、日本の若い世代が必要としている励ましの声を届ける存在となってください。この度の素晴らしい成果、誠におめでとうございます。ドミニカ・フォルシー博士、ブレントウッド大学。
博士号の取得は飛び上がるほど嬉しかったです。さらに、論文を高く評価していただいたコメントには、この上ない喜びがありました。今回は、私の論文のプレゼンテーションを疑似的にご覧いただこうと思います。すべてが英語ですが、論文発表のイメージをつかんでいただけると思います。皆さんのプレゼンテーションの参考にしていただければ嬉しいです。
Thank you all for being here today.
I am honored to present my dissertation titled Japanese Entrepreneurial Mindset, Continuity and Change Across Generations. Hopefully, you will understand the meaning by my talk's end. I am quickly going to run the presentation overview. Background, research questions, literature review, study targets, research design, data collection, data analysis, findings, conclusion and recommendation, and final summation. One of the key elements of this study is the unique ethical framework that influences Japanese entrepreneurs, samurai spirits. In 1992, the U.S. GDP was $6.5 trillion, and Japan's was 60% at $3.9 trillion. However, Japan's economy stagnated into the lost 35 years. While Japan struggled, the U.S. economy overgrew, entering the era of Industry 4.0. The GDP of the U.S. has grown up to $25.7 trillion. Japan has been in a slump of $4.2 trillion. It was only 16% of the U.S. Japan is supposed to be following the U.S. in economy. But it couldn't.
What has happened to Japan?
I am an associate professor at the Business Breakthrough University. As such of my occupation, I feel inexplicable with the Japanese entrepreneurs. How have the Japanese entrepreneurs played their roles? The chart shows the comparison between the Japanese and the U.S. generations. It reveals differences in entrepreneurial success. For example, founders of major U.S. technology companies, from the baby boomers to Generation Y, such as Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, and Facebook. They created the Industry 4.0 era. Successful Japanese entrepreneurs, such as Fast Retailing, SoftBank, Rakuten, and Mercari. They emerged from similar generational conditions as the U.S.
The first baby boomers, Generation X, the baby boomers Jr., and Generation Y.
But they soon faced lost years and Yutori generation. What they created was the opposite of the U.S. Japan created a dark era of lost 35 years. The U.S. created a bright era of Industry 4.0. This leads to my two central research questions. The first research question is, in what ways are emerging entrepreneurial mindsets among aspiring entrepreneurs in Japan expected to evolve or maintain continuity across future generations? The second question is, in what ways is entrepreneurship learning expected to affect aspiring entrepreneurs in Japan across future generations? Especially the young people born in Yutori generation will be the major power of Japanese society 10 years from now. Are their mindsets different from the other generations? If so, how different? There are many previous studies about the modern Japanese economy.
Japan's stable economic growth ended when the asset and estate bubble collapsed in 1991.
Since then, the slow economy has eroded companies' and investors' capitals, causing industrial bases to escape to foreign countries and many citizens into poverty.
Yutori generation, which studied in the system to reduce academic pressure, is known for its high conservative, less ambitious, more realistic, and more practical than previous generations.
Japan's cultural and national character is deeply influenced by samurai spirits. Samurai spirits was shaped by the Confucian morals of China and continue to shape Japanese modern society. Samurai spirits emphasized values like gi, righteousness, yu, courage, jin, benevolence, and rei, respect, which are a force of inner direction and are innate to the Japanese. Though Japan has changed to the Western style, the national character has still been taking over. This enduring value is rooted in samurai spirits. Despite emphasizing entrepreneurship education, many Japanese entrepreneurs report acquiring most of their skills through work experience rather than formal education. Effective entrepreneurial education would be needed to better prepare future entrepreneurs. This table shows the working status of the Japanese working population aged from 18 to 69. The red frame shows the target people of this study. The business started by oneself and not a business started by myself are entrepreneurs and employers in 6.6%. 9.4% is earning other than salary as a side job. 11.8% is interested in starting a business. This study target is a total of 27.8% of the Japanese working population. The Japanese population is 125 million. The working population is 66.7 million. and the target of this study, 27.8%, is calculated to be 18 million. Then, what sample size would be needed? Here is the sample size formula. The coefficient of confidence level Z is normally used at 1.96 under normal distribution. Also, the margin of error E is at 0.05. The population proportion P is at 0.5, and the population is 18 million. Applying all these coefficients to the formula, the effective sample size was calculated. It was 385, and this study collected 387 valid responses, which ensured statistical reliability. Here is the data collected table showing 21 items for statistical analysis and the 387 responses in coefficients of the Likert scale. The questions are constructed in 6 categories: current status, current mindset, education, especially entrepreneurial learning, skills, traditional business mindset, which is samurai spirits, and future intention. The questions were about the thoughts and feelings of the responders, and the reliability of data needed to be checked by assessing whether each question measured the same concept overall. Reliability was evaluated using Cronbach's alpha coefficient.
Here is the Cronbach's alpha coefficient formula.
Number of questions, N, was 21. The mean covariance between items was 0.16, and the mean item variance was 0.99. Applying these coefficients to the formula, the result was 0.80, and it proved the high reliability. The independent variables for Japanese entrepreneurial generation were set in 3: IV gene X, IV gene Y, and IV gene Utori. The dependent variables of the Japanese contemporary entrepreneurial mindset were set in 6 DV Entree, DV Solo, DV Techno, DV Talent, DV P-Driven, and DV Global. The principal component analysis determined DV Entree, desire to be an entrepreneur, DV Solo, desire to be a solopreneur, DV Techno, desire to be a technopreneur, DV Talent, desire to be a talentpreneur, DVP-driven, desire for profit-driven, and DV Global, desire for a global business. Believing the eagerness for business enthusiasm differs across generations, and the generational changes influence entrepreneurial mindsets. Proposing hypotheses 1. The entrepreneurial generation significantly impacts the Japanese contemporary entrepreneurial mindset. The mediating variable of Japanese traditional mindset, samurai spirits, is set as MEV, samurai spirits. The moderating variable of entrepreneurship learning is set as MOVE entre learning. Believing the enthusiasm for business would be different in each generation, and the traditional mindset would be the critical element in creating or changing entrepreneurial mindsets. Proposing hypothesis 2. The Japanese traditional mindset significantly impacts the Japanese contemporary entrepreneurial mindset. Believing that individuals with entrepreneurship learning would have different entrepreneurial mindsets. Proposing hypothesis 3. Entrepreneurship education has a significant positive impact on the Japanese contemporary entrepreneurial mindset. The survey population comprises full-time or part-time entrepreneurs in Japan is 18 million. The study was conducted by surveying 387 people who identified as entrepreneurs online. The questionnaire collection platform used was an online cloud service, Crowdworks, where over 6 million people are registered as freelance workers. And the students and alumni on the Business Breakthrough University platform. Using the internet, questionnaires can prevent the respondents from being influenced by the researcher. There were 387 valid responses for a 93.7% response rate. The survey was conducted from May 1st to June 30th, 2024, for a period of 61 days. The demographic data of the respondents are presented in the pie charts. 63.3% were male, 34.6% were female, and 2.1% did not answer.
21.4% were Generation X, born between 1947 and 1970.
38.5% were Generation Y, born between 1971 and 1986. And 40.1% were U-Tory generation, born between 1987 and 2004. The balance of survey respondents is believed to reflect the realities of society and is therefore appropriate for analysis. Principal Component Analysis, or PCA, is a statistical technique to identify the principal components by reducing the dimensionality of multiple variables. The red box shows the eigenvectors from the first to sixth PC lines. The green box shows the 21 dependent variables. The light blue box shows the PC scores, and the color of each frame indicates the level of the score values. The orange box shows the contribute rates, which are the sum of squares of PC scores.
The purple box shows the cumulative contribution.
The dark blue box shows the independent variables by assessing the PC scores of each PC line.
First, PC scores were high, with desire for self-growing and to grow a company. First DV was defined as DV entree.
Second, PC scores were moderate, with desire to work independently, to be a solopreneur, and for happiness of family. The future intention of eager for solopreneur as a goal was moderate, but for IPO or M&A, for SME for goal, and for international expansion were negatively moderate.
Second DV was defined as DV solo. Third PC scores were high, with desire to work independently, and moderate with to be a solopreneur, learned programming, and to establish a company. Third DV was defined as DV techno. Fourth PC scores were high, with good at operating computer, and moderate with at English and eager for solopreneur as a goal. Negative moderate was with desire to establish a company and to hire employees. Fourth DV was defined as DV talent. Fifth PC scores were moderate with desire to earn money, and negative moderate with samurai spirits. Fifth DV was defined as DVP driven. Sixth PC scores were moderate with good at English. Even in low, the eager for IPO or M&A and for international expansion were positively scored. Sixth DV was defined as DV global. The contribution rates of DVs were compared across generations as impact rates for setting IV gene X served at the baseline. The rate equals 0. The impact absolute rates are based on Weber-Fechner law as shown. The fan chart illustrates the impact rates across generations and highlights significant variations in entrepreneurial characteristics. The impact rate of DVP driven increased by 14.4%, while DV global decreased by 25.3%. There were clear differences between each DV among the generations. Thus, Hypothesis 1. The entrepreneurial generation significantly impacts the Japanese contemporary entrepreneurial mindset, turned out to be positive. The next chart plots the impact rates of MEV samurai spirits across generations. The chart shows clear differences between generations. Hypothesis 2. The Japanese traditional mindset significantly impacts the Japanese contemporary entrepreneurial mindset, turned out to be positive. The final chart plots the impact rates of move entre-learning across generations. The chart shows significant variation across generations. DVP-driven increased by 24.0%, and DV Global decreased by 24.6%. DV Global could not be driven by entrepreneurship learning. Other factors may be the cause. Entrepreneur education is decoupled from English education. Entrepreneur learning is not related to English proficiency.
Thus, Hypothesis 3, entrepreneurship learning has a significant positive impact on the Japanese contemporary entrepreneurial mindset, turned out to be positive. The Pearson correlation coefficients of impact rates between MEV Samurai Spirits and MAV Entree Learning shows strong positive values for DV Entree, DV Solo, DV Talent, and DV Global. All of these rates are over 0.9, which is very high.
However, it is noteworthy that DV Techno and DVP Driven are negatively correlated.
Looking at the generational trend, DV Techno and DVP Driven have consistently declined among Generation Y and the Yutori generation. They tend to minimize effort and do not expect large profits.
The impact of move entree learning is evident in each generation.
Both Generation Y and Yutori generation seem to have learned independence and global business mindsets through entrepreneurship learning, rather than a profitable emotion. Conversely, Samurai Spirits seem to increase independence and profitable emotion, but it reduced a technological ambition. Move entry learning and MEV Samurai Spirits are positively correlated with growing business mindsets, but negatively correlated with technology and profit-driven mindsets. Entrepreneurship learning is opposite relative to Samurai Spirits of technology and profit-driven mindsets.
The chart shows the rates of people who responded positively to MEV Samurai Spirits and MAV Entree Learning by birth year. 86% of responders in the 1950s very much accepted Samurai Spirits. The number of people with Samurai Spirits has been decreasing year by year, but it seems to have increased since Yutori generation. Until the 1980s, the number of people experiencing InMo Venture learning was on the decline, but then it increased sharply among Yutori generation. The influence of Move Entree Learning and MEV Samurai Spirits is becoming stronger among Yutori generation. Calculating the compound annual growth rate, CAGR, of each data, Moved Entre Learnings was 1.08 and MEV Samurai Spirits was 0.99. Using CAGR, Move Entree Learnings ratio is projected to be 0.66 and MEV Samurai Spirits ratio is projected to be 0.82. By the time Yutori generation reaches around 40 years old and becomes leaders in society, Move Entre Learning and MEV Samurai Spirits are expected to merge. Let this chart move down the corner and look at a chart of Japan's economic growth rate for the same years.
After World War II, Japan achieved great economic growth triggered by the special demand caused by the Korean War in 1950. The Japanese business people born before Generation X worked hard as business warriors. What they needed was the physical strength and guts to work long hours. Gradually, Samurai Spirits seemed to fade, and entrepreneurship learning also seemed to be neglected. But the Japanese economy maintained an average economic growth rate of 4.2%. However, the collapse of the bubble economy in 1992 declined the Japanese economy. Japanese entrepreneurs regained samurai spirits and began to adopt entrepreneurial education from the West. Waseda, Aoyama, and Hitotsubashi University started their MBA programs in the 1990s. However, young people who had received a relaxed education, Yutori education, and the Japanese economy remained sluggish for 35 years, leading to the present day. Many of the young people in Yutori generation desired to avoid being employed and didn't expect much, so they have come to be derided as the desire-deficient generation and herbivorous young people. Hoping that they will be influenced by both to become entrepreneurs who make healthy profits through moderate business activities. The main findings of this study are that generational changes have a significant impact on modern Japanese entrepreneurs' mindsets. Generation Y has a growing desire for solopreneurs and profit orientation, while Yutori generation focuses on the domestic market and profitability.
Samurai spirits and entrepreneurship learning influence modern entrepreneurs' mindsets. Samurai spirits enhanced technological development and profit orientation while reducing interest in global businesses. Entrepreneurship learning enhances profit orientation.
The evolution of Japanese entrepreneurship suggests the need for future research to integrate samurai spirits and entrepreneurship learning to balance the desire for profit and global ambition.
I hope this presentation has clarified the key findings of my study and its implications for the future of Japanese entrepreneurship. I would like to thank Dr. Falsey and Brentwood University for their invaluable support throughout this study.
こうして、私の3年間の博士課程の学びに、ピリオドを打つことができました。DBA という目標へ到達することは、決して楽なものではありません。しかし、その苦難の先に開けるのは、その人にしか見えない新しい景色です。日本には、今、未来を切り開くリーダーが必要です。あなたも、この、希少で誇り高い DBA への冒険の旅を始めてみませんか。さて、経営学要点は、皆さんの経営学への興味に応えて、次々に新しいコンテンツを提供していきます。チャンネル登録と、いいねボタンをよろしくお願いします。